In this video, I'm going to be changing the front tire on the Yamaha T-Max. It's flat. The valve stem is also destroyed, so I have a valve stem that I'm going to be putting it on. You're going to need some tools. One of these to loosen the pinch bolts on this side of the fork, and then this tool, a 19 millimeter, 6 millimeter. Put this here. Don't want to scratch my plastic, and there we go. Once it's loose, it'll be easier. There we go. And now we're going to get a wrench and loosen this. And I'm going to use my breaker bar. You might want to hang on to the bike if you have somebody to help you. That's probably a good idea. And now we're just going to loosen this bolt. This is the axle. And one thing I try to do is I'll kind of grab it on the side and kind of pull it. And surprisingly, it still got grease. I was not expecting grease here. I thought it would be bone dry, but it does have grease, which is interesting because the entire bike is very worn out. So we remove the axle, put it aside. So this is the axle, but it's still got grease. You should always re-grease it when you install it. Interesting thing about this T-Max is that the center stand is so far back that it puts weight on that front. So I'm going to have to lift it up using a jack just to get rid of that front wheel, which is very strange. Normally the center stand kind of puts the bike and lifts up both wheels, but this one, it puts much more weight in the front. It's very interesting. I really try to use these stands, but I'm going to try it. Just kind of lift up the front wheel, and it works pretty well. So, but I'm also going to be using a jack and just putting it underneath. And I just want to be able to kind of hold it up in case it falls. We're going to use a 12 millimeter to the bike, and it's loose. Now let's get this one on the top. Surprisingly easier than I thought. Don't lose the reflector because you need it for passing inspection. 12 millimeter. There we go. And here is the tire. You have the calipers off. It's good to inspect the brake pads. So the tire I picked is this. It's a, what is it called? It's a Shinko, I believe, 120/70 15. It's a 15-inch tire, and this should work. So what I like to do when I change a tire is put the new tire underneath and then the old tire on top. But this is one of the things I did wrong in the past. Not put enough lubricant in the tires. So you should always do this. And this is basically just water with soap. Get it really wet in there. And once that's done, take your tire levers and start pushing this down. Just go around the wheel and do this. So as you do this too, one thing I like is just putting even more soapy solution, just so it comes out easier. So we have to, this has been here for a very long time, so it's like soapy or stiff, like the tire stiff. Sorry. All right. So at this point, we did that, and now take your tire, and the scoop is facing up on this, but on this one, I'm going to put it here and face it down. And you see, like, it's actually pushing it down. Once that's done, just go around like this and get it off of one side. So that's one side removed. Now let's flip it over and do the exact same thing. Just put soap and water. Like one thing I did in the beginning when I was changing tires, I was using WD-40, and that's something you shouldn't do. So I don't recommend that. So let's go around. Just do one revolution with this. This one is a lot stiffer on this side. Did that, so now I'm going to do the same sort of technique. I'm actually going to put some fluid here just to kind of help it a bit. It also helps to have warm temperature. So I'm going to reverse the scoop here and just do that. Sometimes it won't go, but this one is going. You see, like it's pushing it down. Now once that's done, just go around quickly and do this. And we're done breaking the beads on both sides. Now comes the hard part, removing this from the wheel. So you're going to have to get your tire lever here. I'll probably work it on the other side. So I have my tire lever. I'm going to put it in here, and now you're going to have to push it. So it helps to have something, not to scratch your rims, but this is what I do. So now I have that there, and I'm going to go to the next portion, if I can fit it in here. There we go. And I'm going to kind of put it there. So now I'm going to have another tire lever. There we go. Now I'm going to remove the one in the middle, push it, and it seems like it's coming out. And that's one side. Now this part gets a little trickier. So you have this. You're going to have to do this. I have a tool that helps me do this, but you can do it with the tire levers. And you just kind of put it from one side and kind of push it. You do not need this. You can use tire levers, but since I have it, might as well use it. So I'm going to flip this like this, and I'm simply going to put one of the tire levers in. Just kind of pull it apart a bit, and then this is when having two hands is good. But this thing will kind of slide in here. And now I should create quite a bit of leverage to do this. So at this point, it's on there, and you see how much of the tire is kind of coming off. And now I just kind of pull aside, and using this tire lever, I'll just pull this. So if you have enough strength, you can pull it apart, but if you don't, just use the tire lever. And you're just kind of like sliding things, and there we go. So there is the old tire, and here is the rim. But we're not done, because on this T-Max, the valve stem has been rotted off. So we're going to have to remove this. So let me show you what we're going to be doing now. Through it. There we go. So that's the valve stem, and let me get the new valve stem. So on this bike I had a straight valve stem, and it always helps to put a 90-degree valve stem. So I have two of these. I prefer these. So if you can afford to get the metal ones, they're much better because they're two parts. On these, you have to kind of sandwich this in there. So you have to kind of fit it through here, and sometimes it's a little tricky to get this to go in. So A lot of times you can use a vise to push it, and you know, sometimes it's better. But what I like about these valve stems is that you just unscrew it, put it in the direction that you want. So you kind of have to, most of the time, I believe you want to put it left, at least that for me. And then just put this on here. And this one, it's that easy. So you're just going to have to tighten this. Make sure that you know the direction that it's facing. When it comes to valve stems, the 90-degree ones, like these are the cheapest ones you can get, but I prefer the metal two-piece versions. They're much easier to install than these. For this valve stem, just make sure that it's pointing in the direction you want. In the rear, it's a little bit more appropriate to have it face to the right because the drivetrain is to the left. So put it in the direction you want. I'm putting it to the same direction that the rear tire is in. And then tighten the bolt here, which is a 14 mil. This has to be fairly tight because you want, I'm actually going to loosen it a bit because you don't want any leakage from here. And the 90-degree valve stems are some of the best mods you can possibly do. First thing I'm going to do is just make sure that everything is greased up. Now I'm going to switch the tire, so I'm going to put the new one on top. All the plastic off the tire, I am just going to put this lubrication with soap even on the inside and then on the other side. So I'm going to this. Just get this really soapy. Now this is important. You want to know the direction of the tire, and most tires have a arrow pointing to how the front wheel rotates. You want to line this up according to your rim. So this is going to be my right side because this is my right side because that's where this is the left side on the T-Max because it's got the speed cluster. So what I like to do, I actually kind of line this up, make sure I don't screw it up. So it's actually like this. Speed cluster on this side. I line up the arrow. Look for the arrow. Rotation this way. So this way, you know exactly where it's rotating. It's rotating this way. Start pushing it down, keeping in mind the rotation and everything. Sometimes it just does not want to go. Around this area, tire changes are very expensive. It's like usually like $100-something, and you have to buy the tire from the dealership. So this is the reason a lot of motorcycle riders change their own tires. So just kind of work your tire lever around, pull the tire off a bit. Sometimes it just does not want to go, but you have to be patient. You know, tire changes are more of a technique than anything else. This part, just make sure that you have your valve stem lined up, confirm the rotation of the tire, and now I'm just going to pull it to one side. This is the part where you take your tire levers and you just kind of work your way around. And push everything together. Okay, So at this point, it always confuses me because this part gets so tight, but this is when you want to get on one side and kind of push. I'm going to have to push a little bit from that side. Put your feet on here and make sure that it doesn't come out. So I'm going to flip this way because I want to be able to push this part and get it off the bead just so I can get it off of this side. So this kind of loosens it up a bit. Took me a while to figure that part out too. Keep pushing this down while you're putting it on. This way it gives it a little bit more play to slip this in there. So something is tight, so I'm going to just kind of turn it upside down here. I'm going to push this part off of the bead. Now turn it back up. Almost there. Helps to have a third hand to do this. So the key is really, it's done. So the key is really getting both sides off the bead. That way you have more flexibility in the tire. And now we need to make sure that we get the air in there. So it's got to set again with the bead. So I'm going to remove the valve stem. So hopefully you have a good compressor. And this is the reason I installed the 90-degree valve stem. If not, you had to kind of squeeze this thing out, and it's got like a way to adjust, to fill it with air, but it's so much more difficult. So if you just throw one of these in, and it doesn't take long, it's so much easier to fill it. So you want a compressor with a lot of air, and you should hear 2 pops. If not, you're going to have to kind of bounce around the wheel a bit. There's one. There should be another one, which is the other side popping. And there we go. That's 2 pops. And right now, I'm at 40 PSI. And that's it. So put the little valve cap on. And the things that helps is by taking the spacer and just lubing it up. And this one goes on the other side. So one of the things I found from just cycling, if you put a little bit more grease than you need to, it actually kind of stays in there when you're putting it in there. What you're going to find is that when you're cramming this into the bike, it's constantly falling. So you should put like a little bit more grease like that, and it will kind of hold it in place while you do that. So here's my axle. Make sure there's nothing on it, and then we're also going to re-grease this. You can use moly paste, or just regular grease, but the moly paste is better. So I'm just going to put a little bit. You don't need too much, but it does help. It's a little bit tough getting this, especially by yourself, but here's the speed cluster. This is I like to put my foot down like this. There's the speed cluster, and then lift up. So if you put a little bit more grease, it's going to help lifting it up. There we go. So that's take your axle, just kind of slide it through. Now at this point, it's only a matter of getting this side on there, and it's holding, but now we have to fit it through here. I like to take my 90mm, push up on the wheel a bit, and there we go. It went in, and now we just have to tighten it. Give it a good tug. And now, take this is your pinch bolt, and just tighten it up. 6mm. It helps to definitely get the pads separated. It'll go in much easier. And now take your 12mm and hand tighten it to torque. That way we can get some leverage. Now let's get the other side. Well guys, that's how you change the front tire on a Yamaha T-Max, and also change the valve stem with a 90-degree one. So very easy job. It's all technique, it really is. Don't take it to a bike shop, do it yourself, get some tire levers, and just do it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.